You see, we are created in a magnificent vibration, in an absolutely magnificent vibration. Born risk takers. Free. That conditioning takes place after birth. You can change it. It takes guts. It takes goals. How do you know something? You're sitting there watching this and you're thinking, by God, I'm going to change something. I always say, keep reminding yourself that you have tremendous reservoirs of potential within you, and therefore you are quite capable of doing anything you set your mind to. You really can. I don't care what the cynics tell you. Quit listening to some of your peers. Now all you must do is figure out how you can do it, not whether you can or not. When are you going to do it? When are you going to do it? You've got to create a sense of urgency. I'm going to do it right now.
If you can see it, you can do it. But the beautiful truth is you can do anything. We got to know there is a place. There is a specific frequency. And if you get on that frequency, you're going to attract what you need to you. This is what it's all about. Why have you been endowed with such awesome powers? If you'll make a committed decision, this I'm going to do. And you don't have to know how. You do not have to know how. The second you make the committed decision, you flip your brain onto the frequency that you have to be on to attract what you have to attract to manifest the thing that you want. If you can see it, you can do it. It's got to be something you want. Wants come from inside. Act like you're already there. Walk, talk, speak, live like you're already there. Don't set a small goal. Don't set something that doesn't really wind your stem. Set it so big it jazzes you. It really gets you going. When something of a very high nature resonates with the very high side of you, you'll know it. You'll know it. You will feel it. Feeling is conscious awareness of vibration. The only prerequisite, do you want it? Not do you need it, not could you do it. The only prerequisite is, do you want it? Take the lid off your marvelous mind and dream. For goodness sake, give yourself the right to do that. Get your analytical mind out of the way. Put it in your pocket for a while. All you're doing is exploring, daydreaming. What did Lawrence say? All men dream, but not equally. Those who dream by night in the dusty recesses of their mind waken the day to find that it was vanity. But the dreamers of the day are dangerous men, for they may act their dream with open eyes to make it possible. This I did.
Hey guys, how you doing? Welcome to Freedom, Health and Lifestyle, Personal Development with a Business Plan. You can find out more about that by just reaching out. And of course, this is episode 128, and I'm gonna review a little video. I got it off TikTok. You'll be able to see the creator's name on their video. Go and check them out. I don't know what other kind of stuff they produce. This just came across my feed, and I thought it was an interesting video. Now we might not get through all of it. But we shall see. All right. Hold on, I'm getting notifications here from something about something. It's not really that important, right? But yeah, episode 128. What I learned, Jim Rohn. So go and check out the creator who did this, and we'll see. But anyway, look, it's always about thinking and doing better, because that's what we all want. We all want better. Hopefully, my good friend Joye. Joey's going to join us, as I like to call him. Joey, the $1 million difference maker, Maka Unga. Hopefully he can join us. I think he was, sorry about last week as well. I missed last week because didn't really want to, but my pet Coco, 17 years old, she passed away peacefully in her sleep. And, it was a tough time, because we sometimes love these creatures, sometimes more than we love other human beings, right? And, it can be hard. And, it was challenging, but, I was so grateful that we had her for so long. But anyway, look, thinking and doing better. That's what it's all about. And hopefully we're going to learn something in this video. So don't forget, like, subscribe, share, click the notification button. You'll learn when we're on. Usually around about the same time every week, right? Doesn't change. You know, occasionally it might do, but usually it doesn't. So yeah, don't forget, like, subscribe, share, click that notification button, and let me know any comments that you have in the chat. I'd love to hear your thoughts on this video that we're going to get through. Now, of course, you can find me occasionally on Facebook at The Real Mick McQuillan. And of course, you can find Joey always on Facebook and Instagram, but you can find it at facebook.com/joey.unger. And again, hopefully he'll join us. Don't know whether he will or not, because I always like getting Joey's final thoughts as well on some of this stuff. But listen, let's get straight into this video, and we shall see. Right? Don't forget, let me know your thoughts in the comments. Right, let's go.
The first 6 years of my economic life, I wound up broke, and the second 6 years, I wound up rich. And this is how I did it. Some of the things I'm about to share with you.
This is how I did it. Right, this is how I did it. This is what we want to know, right? Okay. Don't forget, you want to take notes, right? And then you want to kind of try and apply some of this stuff into your life. Let's have a listen.
If you're ready, say I'm ready.
I'm ready, yeah.
Here's my first subject for the day. It's called personal development. Of all the subjects Mr. Shoaff confronted me with when I met him at age 25, this was one of the most important. Setting goals, that was easy. Some other things that he offered to me, I got right away. Setting up a money system, I did that right away. Personal development, I'm telling you, it took a while to give up my old ways of blaming everything except myself for my situation. It was almost like going through withdrawals. Some of it was tough to say that it was me, not them. When I said to Mr. Shoaff, this is all they pay, he said, no, that's all you're worth.
Oh, God, it gets into it real quick, doesn't it? And it is interesting. I find it fascinating because personal development, and this is what this is all about, personal development. You know, it is like if you're not into it, it can be hard to accept some of the truths, you know, about your situation or your circumstances. And, you know, I heard a long time ago, you are where you are because you want to be, which really means that, you know, that you don't want to change. You know, you're in that comfort zone, whether it's good or bad, you know, and you don't want to change. And the funny thing is, you know, if you want to change something in your life, you need to be prepared to change something. And that starts with you. So personal development is a big deal. You know, and I'm grateful that I've studied it for so long. Am I perfect? God, not far from it. Do you know what I mean? I don't think anybody is. But we can always be better and try and be better. And it's about reacting, or not reacting, but responding in situations. You know, like believe it or not, I used to. You know, don't know if you can tell, but I need a haircut. But you know, I used to be quite fiery when I was young. You know, I'd fly off the handle real quick. And I think personal development has helped me understand me a bit better, so that I don't always have to do that. Rarely do I do that anyway. I think maybe somebody will challenge that, and that's okay too.
Telling you, that was new stuff for me to ponder. When I said it cost too much, and he said, no, you can't afford it, I thought, whoa, what a new way to look at it. I'm telling you, some of that drama of giving up, that it was them, it was the economy, it was my negative relatives, it was my boss, it was the company pay, the unions and the wage scale and circumstances. It took me a while to give that up. It's like going through withdrawals. But when I finally did it and started this fresh journey of looking in, because that's where the problem was. That's where I had to get straightened out. And the drama happened for me in such spectacular fashion. Jot this phrase down. The major value in life is not what you get. The major value in life is what you become. The major question to ask on the job is not, what am I getting here? The major question to ask on the job is, what am I becoming here? Because it's not what you get that makes you valuable, it's what you become. Now, once I understood that, I started working on this thing called personal development. Jot this down. Success is something you attract by the person you become. I used to think success was something you pursued, went after, and found out no, success is not something you go after. What you go after is usually like a butterfly you can't quite catch. Here's the key. Success is something you attract by becoming an attractive person.
That is interesting. I'm just making a note of that. So I was having a conversation with Kate just the other night, and we were talking about why things happen, and I was talking about in construction. I worked in construction for 17, nearly 20 years maybe, and I did quite well in construction. I left school at 15, started digging holes in the road, but at a young age, I became a foreman, and by 20, just before my 21st birthday, I became a site agent. And and I progressed for sure. And I remember saying to Kate, that construction was easy for me, really easy, and it was easy for me to move, through the different levels of management up to higher management. And why it was easy, because I was almost talking it into existence. I talked about it. I talked about that next step, that next job. I talked about those next things. And you do attract it. You do attract those things. So, like I attracted that phone call there, this morning. Somebody rang me. I told them to ring me at 9 a.m. and they're ringing me at 10 a.m. I don't know why. I even said as I was driving down here, don't call me at 10 o'clock. Right? But they are. So, but anyway, look, I don't know. Maybe I'm attracting that. But, success is something that you attract. I don't know what it means about becoming an attractive person. Yeah, if you're working on yourself, but I would talk, before I became a foreman, I talked like a foreman. Before I became an agent, site agent, or, looking after different people on sites, I talked like I was one. Before I became a contracts manager, I talked like a contracts manager. That's what I did. I talked about it. And, I attracted those opportunities to me. And they were easy to come by. They were really easy to come by because I talked like that. I talked like that person would. I acted like that person would. I took responsibility like that person would. And so success is something that you attract, and you do. You think about any success that you've ever had. Like in your mind, you were already thinking about it. You're probably already talking about it. You're visualizing it, and then all of a sudden it came and it was easy. It was easier than you probably thought. And that's what I think about. That's why, because if something's not easy, it's because I'm not thinking about it in the right way, right? But listen, we're not here to talk about me. We're here to talk about this. Let's get on with this.
In our further studies in leadership, we teach this. To attract attractive people, you must be attractive. To attract committed people, you must be committed. To attract powerful people, you must be powerful. To attract dedicated people, you must be dedicated. So the whole key.
I think that dedicated one, I think that is so important. You have to be dedicated. And you do have to be dedicated, because you can't, it's about doing things even when you don't want to do them. It's about doing the right thing, even when you don't feel like doing it. And dedication, there's lessons to be learned through dedication, because with dedication, you make mistakes, and you're constantly learning, and it can be challenging. It can be real challenging, really challenging. But yeah, that dedication one, and there's probably more.
Here is to go to work hard, not on other people, primarily. Go to work hard on yourself. And then Mr. Schoaf gave me that startling promise that I want to share with you. And here's what he said. It's changed my life all these years, and I'm going to use it the rest of the years of my life. Here's what he said. Mr. Rohn, if you will change, everything will change for you. I've never forgotten that. It still rings clear in my ears today. I can still hear it. And I've said it often enough the last 40 years of my business career so that it keeps ringing in my ears as I've tried to stimulate that same phrase in other people's consciousness. Here it is. If you will change, everything will change for you. If you will change, your income will change. If you will change, your health will change. If you will change, your future will change. If you will change, the equities that you had always hoped for will start to grow and start to change.
That sounds so simple, doesn't it? If you will change, everything will change for you. Sounds so simple. that is one of the biggest challenges, you know. And how, you know, like, how do you change? You know, you change through education, right? You learn new things, you learn, you know, different philosophies, you know, you gain different knowledge, but you have to apply that knowledge, you know. And look, I come back to that quote that I have on my wall, and you know, you never change things by fighting the existing reality. To change something, you build a new model that makes the old model or the existing model obsolete. And that's a quote by Buckminster Fuller, philosopher and inventor back in the late 1800s, early 1900s. And when I think about that quote, and it's on my wall, I can see it from here, next to a couple of pictures and, you know, vision board stuff, you know, and I think about it, and I think, how do I change my existing thought processes, my paradigm? Because the paradigm is the big thing, right? And these are habits these are like automatic habits, that you know, the subconscious kind of habits. So that's such a challenging thing. So, you know, I know, if you will change, you know, everything will change for you. It's such a simple thing, but how do you get to that position of change? You've got to want something first, right? You've got to want change. You know, the funny thing is that I was talking about this too. I think I was talking about it with Joey. I'm saying that people love change when it's their decision. You know, they don't like change when they're being forced to change by somebody else, whether it be legislation, whether it be, you know, I don't know, local authorities, or, you know, whatever. You know, we don't always really adapt to change. We're kind of resistant to it sometimes, until it's our decision to do it. How do you get into the position where you want to change something? You want to make a new decision, you know? Anyway, listen, let's get on with this.
If you will change. Once I got that message, it turned my life around. Let everything change or not change. Let the government change or not change. Let people around you change or not change. Let everything be the same, the turning of the seasons. Let society continue on its way. You take a personal interest in your own personal development, and I'm telling you, you'll start to attract success. And I've got several parts now to personal development. Make these notes. Here's number one. It's like the seasons. Understanding the seasons is one of the best illustrations that I can give you for personal development. Make this note. You cannot change the seasons. They're going to be however they're going to be. And the next note, life in business is like the seasons. Frank Sinatra sings, life is like the seasons. And you cannot change the seasons. The order has been established long before we arrived on the spinning planet, long before we became guests here. However that was done, boggles the mind to imagine how it was all done and accomplished. The Declaration of Independence of America says, all people are created equal and are endowed, I love that word, endowed by their Creator with certain unalienable rights, life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness. Who knows the mystery of all that, how it was set up? But once you arrive here on the spinning planet, here's one of the most important questions to ask. What is the setup? You got to learn the setup. If you don't, right away, our own experience now tells us you'll be in deep trouble. So learn the story of the seasons. You cannot change the seasons, but you can change yourself. That's the clue to the future. You can't change the seasons, but you can change yourself. You can change your mind. You can change your direction. You can change your habits. You can change your thinking process. You can change your actions. You can change your disciplines. Anytime you want to, you can set out on a new course. You're not a goose. You don't have to keep flying south every winter. You can live one way for 5 years, tear up that script, live another way for the next 5 years. You don't have to be without change. After today, you don't ever have to be the same, only by choice. You can't change the seasons, but you can change yourself. So now let me give you the lesson of the seasons. Here they are. Number one, learn how to handle the winters. This is part of personal development that's absolutely essential. Learning how to handle the winters. Winters come right after fall, harvest. And pray tell how often? Every year with regularity. I mean, you can't wish them away. You can't cross your fingers and hope this time it'll miss. Now, some winters are long and some are short, and some are difficult, and some are easier, but they always come. And I want you to make that note. The winters of life will always come. We cannot escape any more than we can escape being on the spinning planet. We're here for a while. And there's all kinds of winters. Financial winters and political winters. Social winters. Personal winters when your heart is smashed in 1,000 pieces and the nights are unusually long. It's called winter time. Barbra Streisand sings, it used to be so natural to talk about forever, but used to be's don't count anymore. They just lay on the floor till we sweep them away. You don't sing me love songs, you don't say you need me, and you don't bring me flowers anymore. A song of winter. But we're acquainted with the lyrics of the song. We've been through the experiences. So what about winter? Here's the best advice I can give you. In the winter, you got to learn how to handle it. They keep coming, variety of forms. You've just got to learn how to handle it. You can't get rid of winter by tearing January off the calendar. But here's what you can do with the upcoming winters of your life. Jot down this trio of words. You can get wiser, stronger, and better. That's what you can do. You can't change the winters, but you can change yourself. You can get wiser. You can read more books. You can attend more classes. You can have the benefit of more testimonials. You can make more notes. Become wiser, stronger mentally. You can grow. You can get stronger. And you can become better. Better than you were last year. This year you can be better. Better able to handle things this year than last year. Better able to handle this time than last time. 5 years ago fell apart. Not so anymore. Anybody can get better. I've gotten better. First time I started to talk in public, I stood up. My mind sat back down. Nothing came out. My knees were banging together, sweat pouring off my face, shaking like a leaf. It's called terror. Some of you have been there. But guess what I did? I got up and did it again, and then I got up and did it again. I've done it now for about 35 years plus. And yes, it might seem easy now for me to step on the platform and talk to this many people for several hours, but not so to begin with. But there isn't anybody here that can't get better. You can get better at being a parent. You can get better at marshaling ideas that kids can understand. You can get better at the vocabulary that'll ring a bell with them. You can get better at telling the stories that'll inspire your daughter. Anybody that wants to can get better. Key phrase, don't settle for just the old skills. Don't settle for the get along skills. Don't settle for the just get by skills. Don't settle for the skills that help you to just maintain, without going down the drain. Don't settle for that. Key phrase, strive for excellence. Strive to get better. Strive to grow. Strive to become more powerful, more articulate. Better able to handle, more patient, more willing, more eager. And you'll be able to handle the upcoming winters. So that's number one, learn how to handle the winters. Now here's number two. Learn how to take advantage of the spring. Uniquely enough, spring follows winter. And pray tell how often? Every year for 6,000 that we know of called written history. I'd gamble on it one more time. Those odds are good. Every time is good odds. Can't beat that. And what a great place for spring, right after winter. If you were going to put spring somewhere, that'd be the place to put it. God's a genius. Now here's what spring is called, opportunity. Interestingly enough, opportunity follows difficulty. 6,000 years of recorded history, opportunity always follows difficulty. Expansion follows recession. Joy follows sorrow. Day follows night. Come on, we can put that together. Not be disturbed by it. It's called the rhythm of life. If the sun goes down, the guy says, what's happened? What's happened? It means he hasn't been here long, I guess. What do you mean? What's happening? Come on. It's part of the deal. But now that you've made it through the winter, now the key is take advantage of the spring. And underline, take advantage. Just because spring rolls around is no sign your future's guaranteed. You've got an opportunity now dropped in your lap. Here's what you got to do. Seize the opportunity. You can't just hope that the opportunity will sweep you along. What you've got to do is articulate it. You've got to pass along the story. You've got to make the calls. You've got to do the meetings. You've got to tell the story. You've got to translate it. It's called seize the spring. Spring is not a guarantee. Here's what spring is. Opportunity. Spring.
That is interesting, though, isn't it? When you think about that. whatever season that you're in, that when an opportunity does come along, you have to take advantage of it. The opportunity is not going to do it for you. You have to work at it. You have to do something. You have to learn. You have to learn something new. And you have to start maybe even before you're even ready. And that can be hard. It's about changing something, right? Usually we make these little incremental changes. From you get one job, you stay in that job, and then you get another job doing the same thing, but for another company. And maybe the reason why you left is because you didn't like the job that you were doing, or the people that you were working with, or anything else. And that's not really about them. That's about me. That's about you, right? So unbelievable. I should probably turn that off. But that's about that's about me. How I'm responding or reacting to my environment or my circumstances. And you could live your whole life in the winter, couldn't you? Really, without ever getting into spring. It's not even gone into summer or autumn yet. Do you know what I mean? So, you really want to think about this stuff and decide, what season you want to be in. Can you choose a season? Sometimes your circumstances, we're talking about with the winter, like when we look at C19, that was a winter for everybody that no one could really do anything about. All you could do is how you responded to it, and that's all you could do. You couldn't change it. What you could do is change how you responded to it. But for some people, it was also a spring, right? So, and that's where you've got to find opportunity. Anyway, right. Let's go.
Spring is called a chance. You got to do something with your chances. Don't just let them pass. Okay. Now, get busy with your spring, because it doesn't last forever. George Harrison, one of the Beatles, sings, all things must pass. The spring doesn't last all year. The sunrise doesn't last all day. The sunset doesn't last all night. It's called seize the moment. It's called seize the time. Seize the opportunity to see the sunset. It's not going to be there long. Seize the spring. It's not going to be here long. In space language, we call it window of opportunity. You've only got a certain amount of time to get the crop planted, get the story told, get the calls made, get the seed in the ground. Then that season will pass. And if you blow it, you got to wait for another whole turn of seasons before one comes around again. Take advantage. Here's a good word, hurry. And now don't be frantic. Underline, don't be frantic, but hurry. There's an ancient script that says, Old Testament, it said, work while it's day, work while it's day. It was almost there's a sense of urgency in this. Work while it's day. Why? The night comes. The night's coming. When what? You can't work. Back then when the sun went down, you couldn't work. Before Thomas Edison. Now we can work all night, but back then you couldn't. So the cry was, work while it's day. Get going, get going, get going while it's day, because the night will shut everything down, and you've got to wait a time before you have another opportunity. I'm asking you to pick up the cry. Hurry, hurry, urgency, work while it's springtime. Get the seeds in the ground, don't delay. Seize your springs. Now here's the next one. Make the best of all of them. There's only a few. At the longest, life is brief. The Beatles wrote, life is very short. How true. Elton John sings, she lived her life like a candle in the wind. Life is fragile, life is brief. It says the blade of grass grows and is soon cut down. It's not forever. Just a handful of springs have been handed to each of us. Somebody says, I got 20 more years. No, you got 20 more times. You got to look at it different than 20 years, 20 times. If you go fishing once a year, you've only got 20 more times to go fishing. Not 20 years, 20 times. That means you got to make the most of each time. So make this note. Each person you meet, make the most of each person. Make the most of each meeting. Make the most of each occasion.
What do you reckon to that? Oh, I was actually thinking about that yesterday. because obviously I'd listened to this already. I had it on earlier in the week, and I thought it was interesting. And that was one of the things that jumped out at me was the times. You know, like if you're in your 20s, you know, and maybe you're going to live, let's say, till you're 70 or 80. Yeah, that means you've got 60 more times, 60 more summers. And in fact, you remember that movie that Eddie Murphy was in, and he was talking about, you know, 20 more springs, 20 more summers, you know, 20 more this, 20 more that. What was it called? G. He was called G. I can't remember what the name of the movie was. Maybe it was called that. I don't know. But I remember that, and that always stuck with me. That you've only got a certain amount of time, you know, and sometimes, you know, maybe you're at that stage where you've got more tomorrow or less tomorrows than you've got yesterdays. You know, but you just never know. Like Bob Proctor, he talks about it. He has the hourglass. You know, he holds up the hourglass, you know, and he says, you know, this time, this, you know, this represents time, and you've got all this sand in the bottom, and this is sand that's already passed. This is time that's already passed, and you don't really know how much is left in the top. You just don't know, and that's why it's important to make the most of it. You know, make the most of, you know, everything, and that's what he's talking about, because you don't really know how long you've got left. You know, of course, what he's saying is, you know, if maybe you've got 20 years left, and you go fishing once a year, you're going to go fishing 20 more times. That's it. Make the most of it, and yeah, why not? Why not? Why not think about it differently? Why not think about, you know, what you can do and the difference that you can make, not just for yourself, but for other people, you know, by just being, you know, better. I don't know, this stuff is so deep sometimes. It really is, you know, but I do like the idea of hurry. And I suppose we're all guilty of procrastinating. You know, I do it myself. Of course we do. We all do it. You know, we put off things till tomorrow that we could do today. And, you know, oh, I'll do it later. I'll do it tonight. I'll do it tomorrow. Instead of do it now. You know, Brian Tracy talks about that. Do it now, do it now, do it now. That's what he talks about. And it's surprising how much you can actually get done when you focus on actually doing it now. But yeah, all right.
Make the most of each phone call. Make the most of each contact. Make the most of each opportunity. Make the most of each class. Don't be lazy here. Don't drift here. Of all the places to have urgency and zero in, concentrate. This is it, springtime. A chance to tell the story, a chance to sow some seed, a chance to pass it along. Don't miss it. Don't just let it pass. Now here's the next one, the season of summer. In the summer, we must learn to nourish our values and fight our enemies. That's the season of summer. As soon as you've planted the garden, the busy bugs and the noxious weeds are out to take it. And guess what? They will take it unless you defend it. You've got to nourish your children, yes, but you've also got to defend them. You've got to nourish your ideas, and you've got to defend it. You've got to sustain yourself, and you've also got to defend yourself. America has to defend itself as well as nourish itself. And I think these ideas, reaching out into millions of homes in America and eventually around the world, we're going to have that unique ability to both nourish and defend. To be a bulwark against ideologies that would reach in and try to destroy values and vitality. But also a chance like a mother to nourish and give life. And that's the best analogy I can give you for your notes. Nourish like a mother and fight enemies like a father. Give life like a mother, take life like a father, love like a mother, hate like a father. The ancient prophet said, love good and hate evil. And kids need to understand what we love and what we hate. Sometimes you got to put love and hate in the same sentence. Sometimes you've got to say, I love you, but I hate what's going on. I love you, but I hate what's happening. Boy, that's important for kids to understand what we love and what we hate. One of the greatest conversions of all time, the man said, my conversion is complete.
I remember I used to work with this Dutch guy, great guy, by the way. And he used to always say, you know, Mick, I like you as a person, you know, but I don't like your behavior. I don't like your attitude, you know. And it's so true. Like you can like the person, but you don't have to like their behavior or their attitude or some action that's going on. And it's true, you don't have to put up with it either, but someone will continue that way, or you will continue that way if you continue to accept it. And it is about, saying no to circumstance and situations. And you can change it. And that's the thing. That's the thing that he's talking about here. So you can change it. And, like, this makes a lot of sense to me. But again, it's about applying it. And it's not a small thing. This isn't something you do today and then you don't do tomorrow. This is something that you do today, and then you have to be disciplined and do it the next day and the next day and the next day and the next day and the next day. And, like it takes, when I know this might sound crazy, it might sound like nonsense, but I mentioned about paradigms earlier on. These are these, imprinted programs, habits, thinking habits, beliefs, whatever you want to call them. And, to be able to change them, it takes 28 days minimum, of consistent redirection, consistent, on a new thought, on a new, creating this new habit, this mental habit. And that's what it takes. It takes 28 days just to try and change that, from that old habit to the new habit. So when we're talking about personal development, this is something that you want to do every day. You want to read 10 pages every day, read for 10 minutes every day, find a space where you can do that. Like there are some great books out there, like obviously, look, we've got Think and Grow Rich on my desk here. The Science of Getting Rich is another great book. I love that book. My gateway book was The Magic of Thinking Big. Somebody gave it to me, and said, "Hey Mick, do you read?" And I made a joke and said, "I got through school without reading a book, but yeah, I can read." And they gave me this book, and they said, "Read chapter 2 and chapter 3." Now, chapter 2, I think chapter 2 was all about a disease called excusitis. I thought, I was really annoyed at this person, because excusitis is all about making excuses, right? And I was 20, so of course, you think you know everything, right? And then when you don't, you make excuses for stupid things. And I thought, you know what? I can't even, this guy's tricked me into reading this book, because if you ask me if I've ever read it, I can't say that I've not read it, right? So I'm gonna have to read this book. But that book was, set me on a journey, because I started to read it. I started to understand myself a little bit more, how I worked, how I was communicating with myself. It helped me deal with me better, which in turn helped me deal with other people better. And, it made a real difference. And, I remember lending that book to somebody and they never gave it back. And I was really annoyed about it, because it was like my first book. Do you know what I mean? Why would I give my first book away? That was crazy, wasn't it? And, I don't even know I must get in touch with them. Maybe they still got it, and I can get it back. That would be nice. But again, what was yours? Let me know in the chat if you've got a gateway book, but yeah, I love the audio books now, because I listen to them while I'm driving around and doing different things. I just find them so easy to do. And if I'm at home and I'm watching them on I might have it on YouTube, I always put the captions on so I can read it as well. If I hear something, I can read it. And that really helps me, it helps it, stick into my mind. And I listen to them over and over again, the same ones. And because I want to understand them. I want to understand the philosophy behind it, and how it works. And that helps change my paradigm, helps change my thinking, helps me, be better, because that's what I want. I want to be better. And, like this stuff makes a difference to me. I don't know how it's going to work for you, but, I would recommend that you give it a try. Even listening to this stuff here and trying to understand this, even if you're listening to it, you don't get it. You don't know what he's talking about. What season's got to do with, me having a shit job. Do you know what I mean? Well, maybe you're in the winter. Do you know what I mean? If you want to get into the spring, you need to act on an opportunity, but you need to hurry. You need to make the best of it. All of this stuff, this is what he's talking about. Like maybe you've got an idea that you want to do something, well, act on it. Act on the idea. What does Joey say? Intentionally act on the thing that you want. This is what Joey says. He says, do it now. Do it now. That's what Joey says. Brian Tracy says the same thing. Do it now. Do it now. So, this stuff, I know it might sound a bit airy-fairy, and I'm not into the airy-fairiness of it, but maybe I am. Maybe I am into the airy-fairiness of it because I love the fact that, thoughts create things. I love that idea. I love the idea of that. Your thoughts and your imagination, create your environment. And this is, like there could be two people. There can be two people in the same town, in the same city, in the same street. One can be doing really well and the other one can not be doing so well. And, they're in the same timeline, but they're not in the same timeline. They're in different timelines. In their minds, they're in different timelines. They've got different realities. One people sees the good, one people sees the bad. One person's having a great experience and another one's having a poor experience, but yet they're in the same place. How's that possible? It can only be the way of someone thinking things in a certain way or acting in a certain way. So, how are you acting? How am I acting? Am I getting the things that I want? Yeah, I am. It's interesting. Do I have it all? No. Do I expect to get it all? Yeah, that's my expectation. My expectation is that I'm gonna win. And but are we even allowed to say that anymore? I don't know. But I'm not going to lose. I know that for sure. Right. Let's crack on. A little bit more.
The things I once hated, I now love. And the things I once loved, I now hate. It's called complete conversion. Wow. I'm asking you to give clear signal to your enemies that you intend to be hostile. Give no quarter. The ancient story said they returned to rebuild the walls of the temple and the city for their future. And as they built the walls of the temple and the city for their future, they had a trowel in one hand and a sword in the other hand. The trowel was for what? To build their future. And the sword was for what? Their enemies. I'm asking you to get good at both trowel and sword. I'm asking you to be ever vigilant. Nourish, give sustenance, give training, give time, give heart, give soul, but also be on the lookout for the enemy. And sometimes they're subtle. The ancient script says, beware the little foxes that spoil the vines. Yes, the vineyard looks okay. Yes, the grapes look okay. Looks like we're going to have a pretty good harvest. But if you were to look closer, the little foxes. So I'm asking you to nourish your vineyard as truly you should, but I'm asking you also to look out for the little foxes that spoil the vine, the little lack of disciplines that cause disaster, the little lack of paying attention that someday is going to ruin it all. I'm telling you, be vigilant, be vigilant. Now here's what else is important in the summer. Some of our enemies are on the outside, like Saddam Hussein, on the outside like Gaddafi, on the outside like Castro, on the outside like the most despicable of all, Stalin, Hitler, Mussolini. And at the cost of much blood, we dealt with those enemies and preserved freedom. Otherwise, we'd have lost it. England almost lost it. Europe almost lost it. If it hadn't have been for the might of America and the Allies, we would have lost it. But we fought that battle at the cost of about 50 million lives. What price is freedom? Sometimes the calculation is beyond imagination. Sometimes the calculation, the heart can't even hold it. The mind can't even comprehend it. The ultimate price that is paid to preserve liberty and freedom so that we can casually come and sit and well-dressed. I'm telling you, it cost a lot more than a little money to get in here and a little time to show up. What was really costly was some of those bloody conflicts where we had to put the enemy in his place, lest all of our future generations be lost in the darkness of Nazism and communism. It's that kind of world. Be ever vigilant. But now here's...
It reminds me of that phrase, and you may have heard this, and I think, what is it? Weak men create weak times. Strong men, what is it? Do you know what it is? What is it? Strong men create weak times. Weak times create weak men. Weak men, oh God, I can't remember what it is. I'll have to figure it out. But it reminds me that I know, you probably know what I'm talking about here. What is it? Strong men create good times. Good times create weak men. Weak men create, bad times, and bad times or hard times, and hard times create strong men. Something along those lines. And that's where, and that's really where for me, it reminds me of that. But it's about being that strong person all of the time. It's about being disciplined with your thoughts, not letting. I was talking about this, last Tuesday actually with a group that I'm involved in. It's an early morning group, a global kind of thing that we do, where we're just on there and we're just doing different discussions. And, we were talking about, how do you stop that thief? We were talking about boundaries, right? That's what it was about. We were talking about boundaries and, setting boundaries for other people and setting boundaries for ourselves, and how boundaries weren't maybe limited, were limited people. And I was saying, well, how do you stop that, how do you create a boundary to stop that intruder or that thief coming in and stealing your dream, right? This is what he's talking about here. Dream stealers, those thoughts, those little foxes, those actions, those people, those little kind of digs and jibes. You can't do this. You shouldn't do that. You should do this. You should do that. And instead of, being disciplined in our own mental, faculties and saying, no, this is what I'm doing. This is how I'm doing it. I can do this, but doing it all with integrity and everything else. I think this is what he's talking about being that strong person and creating a strong time and a good time for you, for your community, for your homestead, whatever it is. Why not? But it's instilling those values, like what he's talking about here, into your kids and into your community, so that that people can have the good that they want, even though you're going to have the bad too. That bad's going to come. Those winters are going to come. But it's about being disciplined and having that strong mind, to be committed to the decisions that you're making. I know I'm rambling a little bit here because I'm just talking off the cuff, but that's what it reminded me of, or that's what what he's saying reminds me of. But anyway,
the ultimate. Jot this down. Some of the enemies are on the inside. How subtle. Yes, beware of the thief in the alley that's after your purse, but what about the thief in your mind that's after your promise? The thief in your mind that tells you you're too short, you're too tall, you're too old, it's passed you by. Everybody else is smart, but you're too stupid. Everybody else could probably figure it out, but with your history, you'll never be able to figure it out. All the mistakes you've made, you'll never be able to walk away from the ghetto or walk away from poverty or walk away from difficulty or walk away from heartache and sadness. But I'm here to tell you, you've got to resist the enemy, even if you find it within yourself. Underline, deal harshly with your enemies, even if you find them on the inside. The enemy of complaining, that'll shrivel up your soul. No one would want you as a business partner. A chronic complainer, none of us would solicit their help. You got to drive doubt into a small corner. Don't let doubt drive your faith into a small corner. See if you can't improvise. See if you can't call up faith, courage, power, and drive your doubts and fears into a small corner. Yes, we must worry, but don't worry yourself to death. If you let worry loose, it's like a mad dog loose in the house. It'll have you in the corner. You've got to drive your worries into a small corner. Here's the key. Let worry serve you, but don't let it conquer you. Yes, you got to worry some. 3 o'clock in the morning, your daughter's not home yet. Best you worry. New York City, step off the curb. Yellow taxi's coming. Best you worry. Enough to get your feet back up on the sidewalk. But don't let worry conquer you. Next is overcaution. I'm telling you, being shy and being timid is not a virtue. It's an enemy, and you can conquer it and drive it into a small corner. Pessimism, drive it into a small corner. Whatever tempts you to spend more time looking on the dark side than the bright side, spend more time with the problem than the answer.
Excuse me. The That's so important, isn't it? You know, when you just, you know, if you want to listen back to that, and I probably would have as well, you know, because it is what you say to yourself, you know, oh, I am this, I am that, you know, and that does shape your reality, you know, like, because if you think you are a particular way, like if you keep saying, oh, I'm so shy, you know, well, then you're going to be shy. And that's why I would definitely recommend that, you know, the Magic of Thinking Big, because chapter 3 is all about, you know, how to, you know, build confidence and cure fear. And, you know, that's one of those things that can hold you back, you know, being fearful, being afraid, you know, to stand up and say something, to raise your hand and say me, you know, or, you know, so I think it's so important that to try and understand that this is deeper than, this is just as, you know, what he's talking about is so deep from the point of view of, you know, actually thinking about the person that you want to become. He talked at the very beginning, you know, about success is something that you attract by becoming more attractive, right? Like, even if that's the only thing that you take away from this today, you know, you have to become more attractive. How do you do that? By how you talk to yourself. How do you talk to yourself? Well, up until now, you know, maybe you've just been doing it, you know, based on all the information that's been coming in from outside sources, from what other people have told you they think about you, or how you observe yourself behaving in certain situations or whatever else. But all of that can change if you're prepared to change something. How do you do that? By education, by books, tapes, audios, different experiences, you know, acting and, you know, intentionally on the thing that you want, by being very deliberate in your approach, you know, by changing the existing reality, right? Changing it, you know, by building a new model of you, a new model of who you want to be and how you want to be. Like, if you knew how you wanted to be, well, how would that person act? How would you act? You know, like, if I wanted to be if I wanted to act this way, well, then how would I do that? You know, like, if I wanted to, you know, like, I'm sure that makes sense to you, right? It's got to. It makes sense to me, right? We'll be on this all day.
You got to drive that tendency into a small corner. You might not be able to eliminate it. Saddam Hussein, we couldn't kill him, but we put a no-fly zone on top and a no-fly zone on the bottom, and we dared him to move. And when he moved and started toward Kuwait not long ago, we sent the troops to let him know in no uncertain terms, you're going to have hostile action here. You got to do that with yourself. Your tendency to be lazy, you got to be hostile. Tendency to drift and let it slide, you got to be hostile, even if you find it within yourself. It's very important. In the season of summer. Now here's the last one. The season of harvest. I got two things to consider in the harvest. Number one, reap the harvest without complaint. Come on, it's your crop. Who else's is it? You're the one that sowed the seeds. You're the one that either neglected or got the job done. You either did it or you didn't do it. You made the calls or you didn't make the calls. You either did the meeting or you didn't do the meeting. I mean, you lifted it up or you let it fall in the mud. You either articulated or you mumbled. I mean, you know, it's your deal. So learn to take, jot this down, learn to take full responsibility. Anything less than that, I'm telling you, will start to erode your own psyche. Less than full responsibility. Once Shof made that clear to me, I'm telling you, I changed my life. He said, your paycheck is your responsibility. It's not the marketplace. The marketplace is doing about the best it can. And if you're not doing the best you can, that's where the problem is. I'm telling you, that got to me. And I said, I'm going to take from now on full 100% responsibility. Learn to reap in the harvest with responsibility. Complain not. Complaining is devastating. If you don't think it's devastating, ask the children of Israel, typical of us all. Their story just happened to get in the book. Children of Israel were slaves. God performed a series of dazzling miracles, got them out of slavery. Now they're heading for the promised land. Remember the story? Heading for the promised land. Tragedy of the story. They never got there. Reason? From day one, they started to gripe. They griped about the food. I mean, they just got delivered from slavery and they're on their way to freedom. And they said, you know, this food ain't all that hot. I mean, how much can you take? They griped and complained about the water. It didn't taste good. They're in the desert. They got water. They say it doesn't taste that good. Where's the Avion? No, I'm telling you. Who can tolerate it? They griped about the leadership that rescued them from slavery. Said this leadership ain't all that swift. I'm telling you, too much. They griped because it was too far, too cold, too hot, too miserable, too difficult, too rocky. They whined and cried for years. Finally, God said, I've had it. Trip canceled. Over. Or something like that. What I guess it means is, number one, complain long enough, you get your future canceled. No enterprise would want to tolerate your presence. Who would want you to be around? Messing up the day. And number two, I guess it means even God himself can only take so much.
Yeah, even God himself can only take so much, for sure. You know, the question you need to ask is, you know, does he hang out with you, or do you hang out with him? You know, maybe you do, maybe you don't, I don't know. But take responsibility, harvest. I like that video. Now, you would have saw the creator's name in that video. By all means, go and check him out on TikTok. Like I say, I don't know what other stuff he produces. But I did find that interesting. I hope you found it interesting too. And, you know, look, take out of it what you want. Yeah, because maybe you're not ready for all of it. And that's what I find. I find that with all of this personal development stuff. You know, you read stuff, you learn stuff, you know, and some of it you're not ready for it. And you just kind of gloss over it. And then when you come back to it, maybe a year later or months later, and you pick the book up again, you read it, and maybe you get a bit more of it. You understand it a little bit more. So, look, you never change things by fighting the existing reality. You know, like, geez, you know, like, I know it's bananas, but the existing reality is that thing that we do every day. We get up in the morning, we do the same thing, right? Have the same thoughts. It's the thoughts for me, the same thoughts, same habits, you know, whether they're automatic habits or whether they're, you know, unconscious habits. So that's the existing reality. And to change that, you've got to build a new model that makes the existing model obsolete, the existing habits obsolete. That means change. It means changing the way that you think. You can't just change the way that you think just by changing your thinking. You have to understand something new. You have to understand how that works. Cybernetics is a great book for someone like that. I love that book. You know, it's a good book. I would recommend it. As well as, you know, look, The Science of Getting Rich is one of my favorite books. And to me, it's not just about, you know, it's not about wealth. Yes, of course, it's about wealth creation for sure. But it's also about, you know, emotional wealth, better relationships, starting with a better relationship with yourself. I know that might sound crazy, but, you know, it's probably one of the most important things that you can work on, the relationship with yourself, you know, learning to like yourself, you know. I remember I was going to, I can't remember who was giving the talk, but there was a talk that it was an online, it was a Zoom thing, right? And it was happening one evening, and my wife said, well, what's it about tonight? I said, oh, it's about self-love. She said, oh my God, you're going to be unbearable. She said, you don't need any more of that. And maybe she's right. I don't know. I doubt it. But we can all do with more of that. You know, we can all do with liking ourselves a bit more. I'm not talking about being, you know, cocky. You know, I'm talking about good self-confidence, good self-esteem. Knowing, you know, like if you stood and looked at yourself in the mirror and smiled at yourself, you know, what is that voice that you hear in your head? Does it say, yeah, I like you too. You look amazing today. You know, today's going to be a wonderful day. You know, exciting things and wonderful things are going to happen to you. You know, what is going to happen? You know, or is it going to be, you know, you're smiling at yourself in the mirror, and then a little voice in your head says, what have you got to smile about? You know, you've got to go to work. You know, you hate your job. This is blah, 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 blah. You know, sit on the bus with that person. You know, sit on the train or whatever it is. You know, like, you know, where does your mind flow to? Does it flow to the negative aspirations, and, you know, or does it flow to positive aspirations? And, you know, and could that be a reason why maybe, you know, life is good today and not great today, or whatever? You know, like, look, I don't have all the answers. You know, I know what works for me. Could it work for you? Maybe. It should do. I think it works for everybody. You know, we're going to play out with this video. This video has a lot. This Proctor video has a lot. We should really analyze this video line by line you know, because I just think it has everything in it. And it starts, you know, with making a decision to want more, to want better, you know, for you. And we all want better. I want better, you know. Right, I'm getting out of here. Sorry, Joey wasn't able to attend today. You know, we love Joey. I love getting Joey's final thoughts. Maybe we can get some comments off him. But look, I'm excited. I'm excited for this week. I'm excited for today. Do you know what I mean? Yeah, I'm sad at the same time that I lost my dog. You know, it breaks my heart, you know, because you love these creatures sometimes more than you love other human beings. But at the same time, I'm so grateful. I'm so grateful that we had her for so long. She meant the world to us, as these little creatures do. And if you're a pet owner, you're going to know exactly how I feel if you've ever experienced anything like this. But I'm just grateful. I'm grateful. Look, reach out, get in touch if you want to know more about freedom, health, and lifestyle, personal development with a business plan. And of course, look, you know, my name is Mick McQuillan, yeah, I'm a business owner, you know, and we're expanding, we're growing, and we're creating an opportunity where people can get involved. And one of the things I love about this opportunity that we've created is that you get to keep every penny that you earn, every penny. And it's just incredible, you know, and it's built on service. It's not built on a product, it's built on service. And service to many leads to greatness, you know, and that's what I want for you. It really is. It's really what I want for you. Because I think we all deserve more. We all deserve better. And, you know, I want to create a model that does that. Now, watch this video. Take notes on it. It's worth it, right? It's worth it. Right, let's go. See you next week.
You see, we are created in a magnificent vibration, in an absolutely magnificent vibration. Born risk takers. Free. That conditioning takes place after birth. You can change it. It takes guts. It takes goals. And you know something? You're sitting there watching this and you're thinking, my God, I'm going to change something. I always say, keep reminding yourself that you have tremendous reservoirs of potential within you, and therefore you are quite capable of doing anything you set your mind to. You really can. I don't care what the cynics tell you. Quit listening to some of your peers. Now, all you must do is figure out how you can do it, not whether you can or not. When are you going to do it? When are you going to do it? You've got to create a sense of urgency. I'm going to do it right now.
If you can see it, you can do it. But the beautiful truth is you can do anything. We got to know there is a place. There is a specific frequency. And if you get on that frequency, you're going to attract what you need to you. This is what it's all about. Why have you been endowed with such awesome powers? If you'll make a committed decision, this I'm going to do. And you don't have to know how. You do not have to know how. The second you make the committed decision, you flip your brain onto the frequency that you have to be on to attract what you have to attract to manifest the thing that you want. If you can see it, you can do it. It's got to be something you want. Wants come from inside. Act like you're already there. Walk, talk, speak, live like you're already there. Don't set a small goal. Don't set something that doesn't really wind your stem. Set it so big it jazzes you. It really gets you going. When something of a very high nature resonates with the very high side of you, you'll know it. You'll know it. You will feel it. Feeling is conscious awareness of vibration. The only prerequisite, do you want it? Not do you need it, not could you do it. The only prerequisite is, do you want it? Take the lid off your marvelous mind and dream. For goodness sake, give yourself the right to do that. Get your analytical mind out of the way. Put it in your pocket for a while. All you're doing is exploring, daydreaming. What did Lawrence say? All men dream, but not equally. Those who dream by night in the dusty recesses of their mind wakened the day to find that it was vanity. But the dreamers of the day are dangerous men, for they may act their dream with open eyes to make it possible. This I did.